Most men over 60 don't realize this, but the way you start your morning could be silently destroying your circulation, draining your energy, and weakening your performance when it matters most. It's a quiet crisis that unfolds not with dramatic collapse, but with a gradual dimming, a slow retreat of vitality that most men mistake for the inevitable cost of getting older. And the shocking truth is this. Drinking plain water first thing in the morning may be one of the biggest reasons your blood flow is slowing down. A well-intentioned habit that is paradoxically leaving your body starved for the activation it desperately needs. Your body feels heavier and intimacy feels harder than it used to, not as a singular event, but as a creeping reality that settles into your bones. I've seen men blame age, blame stress, and blame their bodies, constructing narratives of decline that feel inescapable. When, in reality, the problem begins with a simple morning habit they never question, a ritual so ingrained it feels beyond reproach. Think about the moments you felt your hands and feet turn cold, the subtle signals your body sends when circulation begins to falter. The exhaustion that hits before noon, the frustration when your body doesn't respond the way it once did, and the quiet fear of losing the part of you that makes you feel alive and confident. These are not just passing moods, they are symptoms. It's not weakness, it's not fate. It's a signal, a direct communication from a system that is struggling to sustain the flow of life within you. Here's the paradox. Water alone does nothing to activate blood vessels in the morning. It hydrates, but does not ignite, leaving the circulatory system in a state of dormant sluggishness. But when you add one natural ingredient in the right way, you can trigger a surge in circulation in less than 24 hours, a reawakening that many describe as feeling like a fog has lifted. 1 teaspoon, one small change, and many men say they feel like they're 20 again, not in a fleeting sense, but with a sustained return of warmth and readiness. I'm Dr. Evelyn Reed, a men's health specialist for more than 30 years, and today I'm going to show you exactly how, not with complex theories, but with a straightforward, nature-based protocol that has changed lives. Before we go any further, if you're finding this message helpful already, take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another science-based tip designed specifically for men over 60 who refuse to accept decline as their final chapter. And do me a favor. Type 1 in the comments if you're ready to take back control of your circulation and your confidence, to join a community of men who are choosing a different path. Now, let's get into exactly why this simple honey method works so powerfully. 1. The silent circulation crisis after 60. Most men never see it coming. It doesn't arrive with a warning label or a sudden dramatic moment or a clear sign you can point to. It slips in quietly, unnoticed, like a slow dimming of the lights, a gradual closing of doors within your own body. One day you feel strong, capable, present in your own body, and then suddenly you realize something has changed. A shift so profound it alters your relationship with yourself. You wake up and something feels heavier. Not your muscles, not your bones, but your spirit, the very essence of your drive. You sit on the edge of the bed, wondering why your energy is gone before the day even begins, a deficit that feels personal and defeating. You take a deep breath and notice it doesn't fill you the same way it used to. The air doesn't seem to reach the places it once did. Your hands feel cold, a constant, subtle chill that no amount of rubbing seems to warm. Your feet feel distant, as if they are part of someone else's body. You look in the mirror and wonder when the man staring back stopped feeling alive, when the spark in his eyes was replaced by a look of resigned adaptation. And the cruelest part is that no one warns you about this. No doctor pulls you aside at 55 and says, your blood vessels are losing flexibility, your circulation is slowing. No one explains that the warmth, strength, and intimacy you relied on for a lifetime can slowly fade, not as a punishment, but as a physiological process that can be addressed. Not because you're old, not because you're broken, but because your body is losing the ability to push blood where it needs to go, the vital current that fuels every function. And with that loss comes a wave of emotions men almost never speak about, a private struggle fought behind closed doors, the embarrassment of struggling during moments that used to feel effortless, the frustration of trying to pretend everything is fine when inside you're afraid. The fear that the physical symptoms are stealing pieces of the man you once were, piece by piece, day by day, leaving a stranger in his place. I've spoken with countless men who describe the same quiet pain. They talk about sitting beside their wives, feeling more like spectators than partners, separated by an invisible wall of physical disconnect. They talk about withdrawing from the world because they don't want anyone to see them weakening, a lonely isolation that compounds the problem. They talk about missing the feeling of power and presence in their own bodies, the unthinking confidence of a body that responds, missing the pulse of strength they once carried without thinking, a birthright they assumed was permanent. And behind the words, there is always the same question. Is this it? Is this how it ends? But here is the truth most men never hear. The problem isn't age. It's circulation. It's blood flow. It's the silent decline in nitric oxide that chokes off the very essence of being fully alive. A molecular starvation that has nothing to do with years and everything to do with biochemistry. It's the loss of internal motion, the slowing of the engine that drives everything you feel, everything you think, everything you desire. When blood stops moving, life stops moving. When circulation weakens, the world becomes smaller, receding to the edges of your immediate capacity. When flow returns, everything returns with it. Ambition, joy, connection. And the most shocking part, this crisis doesn't take years to turn around. It doesn't require invasive procedures, expensive prescriptions, or embarrassing conversations. The body can rebuild flow. The blood vessels can reopen. Vitality can return. The switch inside you can turn back on. Sometimes all it takes is one small shift in a morning routine that most men never question. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you the paradox that has kept millions of men stuck without realizing it. The surprising mistake almost every man makes when he wakes up in the morning, and how reversing it can change everything. Stay with me, because what comes next might be the most important discovery of your life. 2. Why plain water isn't enough. Most men have been told their entire lives that the healthiest thing they can do each morning is drink a glass of water the moment they wake up. Doctors repeat it, health magazines praise it, and everyone accepts it as unquestionable truth, a pillar of wellness orthodoxy. But what if that advice, so deeply ingrained and so confidently believed, is actually part of the reason your circulation continues to weaken after 60? What if the habit you trust most is quietly working against you, holding back the very life force your body is desperate for, like offering a key that doesn't fit the lock? I know that sounds shocking, almost uncomfortable to hear, because it challenges something so basic. But stay with me. Sometimes the most dangerous beliefs are the ones that feel too familiar to question. Imagine the first moments of your morning. Your body wakes slowly. Your bloodstream is thick, heavy, sluggish from hours of stillness. Your heart begins working harder just to push blood through vessels that lost flexibility years ago. Your nitric oxide levels are at their lowest point of the entire day, a nightly depletion that leaves your vascular system tight and constrained. Your cells are hungry for oxygen, for circulation, for movement, and instead, the first thing you give them is plain water. It enters your system offering nothing to activate blood vessels, nothing to spark flow, nothing to awaken the engine inside you. It simply dilutes what little power remains, leaving your arteries tight and narrow, your blood moving with the weight of winter through frozen pipes, a struggle against resistance. And here is the part most men never see until it's too late. When circulation is weakest in the morning, your brain receives less oxygen. Your heart works harder than it should. Your muscles feel empty and your body slips into a survival mode instead of a performance mode, prioritizing basic function over vitality. That's why mornings feel heavy. That's why energy disappears so quickly. That's why the warmth in your hands and feet fades. That's why intimacy becomes unpredictable, frustrating, and unfamiliar. It's not a character flaw. It's not laziness or aging or weakness. It's simply that your bloodstream is never given what it needs to truly awaken, to shift from stagnation to dynamic flow. They drink water faithfully, follow instructions, hope for improvement, and yet nothing changes. Their dedication meets with silent disappointment. They wake up tired. They walk through days feeling blurred, as if living behind a pane of glass. They sit across from the person they love, wanting to feel connected, but feeling trapped inside a body that won't respond, a heartbreaking divide. They begin to fear that this decline is permanent, that life is shrinking into a quiet echo of what it once was. But the truth is, their bodies are not failing. Their bodies are waiting, waiting for a spark, waiting for something powerful enough to open the vessels and restore movement, a signal they have not yet received. And here is where the paradox becomes almost unbelievable. You don't need more water. You need the right activation signal inside the water, a natural trigger your body instantly recognizes, something capable of turning circulation back on within minutes, not hours. And in the next section, I'm going to show you the surprising ingredient that does exactly that, and why the way you use it matters more than you ever imagined. Stay with me, because what comes next might change everything you thought you knew about your own body. 3. Why honey is the morning blood flow trigger. There is something extraordinary hiding in plain sight on the shelf of nearly every kitchen in America. Something most men have used their entire lives without ever understanding its true power. Honey. To many, it's just a sweetener, something to drizzle into tea or spread on toast, a simple pleasure. But what if I told you that honey, when used correctly, isn't a sweetener at all, but a biological switch capable of awakening your circulation faster than anything you have ever tried? What if this simple golden liquid is the missing link between the body you have now and the strength, warmth, and energy you once carried so effortlessly, a bridge back to yourself? It sounds almost unbelievable, I know, but sometimes the most powerful solutions are the ones we overlook because they seem too ordinary to matter, too humble to be revolutionary. Think for a moment about what you miss most. The steady warmth spreading through your hands instead of the cold stiffness that settles in your fingers. The feeling of standing up without struggling for balance or breath, a simple act becoming a victory. The clarity of a sharp mind ready to take on the day. The quiet pride of knowing your body will rise to the moment when intimacy comes, instead of that sinking fear that it won't. These things don't disappear because you're old. They disappear because blood stops moving the way it once did, because the internal river slows to a trickle. Without circulation, the world shrinks. You feel disconnected from your own life, like you're watching it happen instead of living inside it, a passenger rather than the driver. Honey changes that. Raw, unprocessed honey is rich in natural flavonoids and antioxidants that trigger the release of nitric oxide, the molecule responsible for relaxing and widening your blood vessels. When nitric oxide rises, blood moves freely again. Oxygen reaches your brain. Warmth returns to your hands and feet. Energy spreads through your muscles. Desire wakes up. Confidence replaces doubt. It is the closest thing nature has to flipping a switch inside your bloodstream, turning life back on from the inside out, a molecular sunrise. And unlike pills that force your body into temporary reactions, honey works with your system, restoring what time has taken instead of forcing something artificial, a collaboration with your own biology. But here's the part most men never knew. Honey only works when it's taken at the right moment and in the right way. Timing is everything. The morning is when your body is most desperate for nitric oxide support, when your blood vessels are tightest and circulation is at its weakest, a critical window of opportunity. When honey meets the bloodstream at exactly that moment, something remarkable happens. Instead of water passing through your system unnoticed, honey activates flow. It wakes your arteries, opens your pathways, and turns a sluggish morning into a surge of movement, a tide coming in. Men describe feeling their bodies warm from the inside, their energy ignite, their confidence return. Many tell me they feel something they haven't felt in decades, possibility. And yet, almost every man uses honey the wrong way, destroying the very enzymes and compounds that make it powerful. In a moment, I'm going to reveal the biggest mistake nearly everyone makes when using honey, the mistake that prevents this transformation from ever happening. And once you understand it, you will see exactly why this simple routine has changed the lives of so many men who thought hope was gone. Stay with me, because what comes next might be the turning point you've been searching for. 4. The big mistake most men make. Almost every man who tries to improve his circulation makes the same mistake without realizing it. They finally hear that honey can boost blood flow. They feel a spark of hope and they rush to use it, only to sabotage the entire process before it even begins, turning potential into another entry in a ledger of disappointments. And the heartbreaking part is that they blame themselves when nothing changes. They assume their bodies are too old, too damaged, too far gone. But the truth is far simpler and far more painful. It wasn't their body that failed. It was the method. The mistake is this: men take honey at the wrong time and in the wrong way. They mix it into hot water or boiling tea, destroying the enzymes and antioxidants that trigger nitric oxide, turning a potent activator into mere syrup. They spread it on toast, stir it into oatmeal, drizzle it over cereal, combining it with bread, grains, and processed carbohydrates that spike insulin and instantly shut down nitric oxide production. In other words, just when the body is reaching for a spark of circulation, insulin steps in like a hammer, smashing the very process that honey is supposed to unlock. The result is not improved blood flow. It is stored sugar, reduced energy, and deeper disappointment. A biochemical betrayal. And I have seen the emotional toll this takes. Men come into my office with quiet frustration in their eyes. They say, "Doctor, I tried everything you said." They speak softly, as if ashamed of failing at their own recovery. They talk about feeling defeated, about being tired of fighting for something that keeps slipping away. They talk about the fear of letting down their partner, the guilt of withdrawing, the loneliness of pretending everything is fine. They talk about missing the spark that once made them feel powerful and whole. But I look them in the eye and tell them the truth. It wasn't their fault. They never failed. They were never broken. They were simply never shown how to use honey in a way that works with the body instead of against it, in harmony with its rhythms. Because the secret is not just the ingredient, it is the timing. When honey enters the body first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, when it meets the bloodstream before insulin rises, when it ignites nitric oxide at the exact moment your vessels are most rigid and unresponsive, something extraordinary happens. A switch flips, circulation wakes up, warmth spreads, the engine inside you turns over again, catching on the first try. Men describe feeling life return within minutes, like the body suddenly remembers what it was designed to do, a memory written in the blood. And here is where everything changes. You don't need months to feel it. You don't need complicated routines or expensive treatments. You don't need to wait for permission to take back control. When you use honey correctly, you can feel the shift in as little as 24 hours, a tangible change that rewrites your expectations. And in the next section, I'm going to show you the exact protocol, the precise timing, the exact combination, and the simple morning ritual that has helped thousands of men revive their circulation, renew their energy, and rebuild the strength they thought they had lost forever. Stay with me. This is where everything begins to turn. 5. The correct way. The honey circulation protocol. What if I told you that the difference between feeling weak, tired, disconnected, and feeling powerful, alive, and in control again could come down to just 1 teaspoon and one simple change in the first 10 minutes of your morning? It sounds almost too easy, too small to matter. But sometimes the smallest shifts create the greatest transformations, the slight nudge that changes the entire trajectory. And for thousands of men I've treated, this single daily ritual has been the moment everything began to turn around. Not weeks, not months, sometimes in a single day, a before and after measured in warmth and breath. Here is the truth most men never hear. Your body is not waiting for medication, surgery, or extreme treatment. It is waiting for activation. It is waiting for something to wake your circulation, to open the blood vessels that have slowly tightened over the years, to restore the flow that fuels your strength, your energy, your clarity, and your confidence. And the most powerful time to trigger that change is the moment you wake up before anything else enters your system. Because in those first minutes of the morning, your bloodstream is thick and slow, your nitric oxide levels are at their lowest, and your vessels are at their most resistant. It is the moment your body needs help the most. And the moment almost every man ignores, rushing instead to coffee or breakfast, missing the window entirely. This is where the honey protocol becomes more than a drink. It becomes a switch. The key is raw, unprocessed honey. Not the clear factory-made version, stripped of their natural healing compounds, but dark honey with its grainy texture and fully intact enzymes. Honey that looks and tastes of the earth. 1 teaspoon placed into warm, not hot, water preserves the delicate antioxidants needed to ignite nitric oxide. Add half a freshly squeezed lemon to support vascular relaxation and provide the vitamin C required to protect nitric oxide from breaking down, a guardian molecule. Finally, a pinch of cinnamon or ginger, not for flavor, but because these natural warming agents increase blood vessel responsiveness, helping the body carry that flow into every corner where life has felt dimmed or fading, extending the reach of the awakening. Drink this slowly on empty stomach within 10 minutes of waking and wait 20 minutes before eating. That timing is what unlocks everything. No insulin spike, no interference, no sabotage, just pure activation, a clean signal sent directly to your vascular system. And the changes men describe are deeply human, not clinical. One man told me that after a week, he woke up and realized his hands were warm for the first time in years, a simple sensation that brought him to tears. Another said he walked up a flight of stairs without stopping halfway to catch his breath, reclaiming a fundamental freedom. One man, tears in his eyes, said he sat next to his wife and felt present again, alive, capable, connected, confident. But it wasn't gone. It was waiting. Your body remembers who you were. It remembers what vitality feels like. It remembers strength, clarity, desire, and power. The question is not whether you can get it back. The question is whether you're willing to take the first step, to try a different key in the lock. And now that you know how to activate the switch, the next question becomes even more important. Why does this method work so powerfully? And what is happening inside your body when it does? That answer holds the key to reclaiming everything you thought aging had taken from you. And that's exactly what we are about to uncover. Stay with me. The science behind this may change the way you see your body forever. 6. Why it works. The science behind the transformation. Most men don't realize this, but the very engine that controls energy, strength, clarity, and intimate performance isn't testosterone, muscle, or even the heart itself. It all comes down to one microscopic molecule that determines whether your blood flows freely or struggles to move at all, the maestro of your inner symphony. And the shocking truth is that by the time a man turns 60, his body is producing less than half of what it once did, a silent deficit with roaring consequences. That molecule is nitric oxide. And without it, nothing in the body functions the way it should. Your heart can beat, but the blood won't travel with force. Your brain can think, but the signals feel slow, foggy, and distant. Your desire can spark, but the body cannot respond, a disconnect between intention and execution. It is the quiet failure of a system no one ever told you was fading, a foundational crack in your vitality. When nitric oxide is low, your blood vessels become stiff and narrow, tightening like a clenched fist, refusing to let life through. Blood struggles to reach your hands, your feet, your brain, and the most intimate parts of your body, creating a map of cold and stagnation. You start to feel constantly tired, disconnected, and strangely fragile, like you are living inside a version of yourself that doesn't match the man in your memories, a poignant dissonance. But when nitric oxide rises, everything changes. Blood vessels relax and open. Circulation floods the body. Warmth returns. Muscles feel awake. The mind sharpens. Confidence begins to rebuild from the inside out, a reclamation project starting at the molecular level. It is a transformation not of strength, but of flow. The return of movement, life, and presence, the rediscovery of current within. This is precisely why the honey protocol is so powerful. Raw honey is rich in natural flavonoids and antioxidants that directly activate nitric oxide production, turning that internal switch back on, feeding the very process that has been starving. Lemon supports the vascular lining, allowing it to open more fully, like smoothing the walls of a hose for better flow. Cinnamon and ginger warm the vessels, increasing responsiveness, ensuring the signal is heard and amplified throughout the system. And when all of this enters the bloodstream at the exact moment circulation is weakest, first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, the body doesn't just respond, it awakens. Blood begins to move where it hasn't moved fully in years, revisiting forgotten neighborhoods of the self. And within minutes, men describe a feeling they can't quite explain. A subtle rush, a gentle heat, a sensation of motion returning to places that have felt dormant for far too long, a whisper becoming a song. Many men tell me they feel it first in their fingertips or toes, a tingling, a soft pulse, a sense of life flowing again. Others describe clarity in their minds, as if a fog has lifted, thoughts connecting with old speed and precision. And many speak quietly with emotion tightening their voices as they explain that intimacy no longer feels like pressure or fear, but like possibility again, a return to language the body understands. Not because of magic, not because of luck, but because the body was finally given what it had been silently begging for all along: circulation. This is the science of hope, the biology of return, the proof that it is never too late to reclaim the life that feels like it has been slipping away. And now that you understand what is happening inside your body, the question becomes, what kind of results can you expect? And how quickly can you begin to feel real change? In the next section, I want to share the stories of real men, ordinary men just like you, who discovered what happens when flow returns. Their words may be the inspiration you have been waiting for. 7. Real patient success stories. There's a moment I will never forget, one that changed the way I think about aging forever. A 67-year-old patient named Marcus sat across from me, his shoulders heavy, his voice barely above a whisper. He said, "Doctor, I feel like I'm fading out of my own life." He talked about waking up every morning already exhausted, about losing his breath climbing a few stairs, about sitting beside his wife at night feeling like a stranger in his own marriage. He said he missed the warmth in his body, the presence in his mind, the strength that once defined him. I could hear the weight beneath his words. Years of silent fear and disappointment carried alone. Like so many men, he thought decline was permanent. He believed it was his fault, that he was simply getting old and there was nothing left to fight for. But what he didn't know was that his body wasn't broken. It was waiting for flow, waiting for oxygen, waiting for the return of the circulation that had quietly slipped away. I introduced him to the honey morning protocol, the same one you're learning now. Nothing complicated, nothing expensive, nothing that demanded strength he no longer had. Just 1 teaspoon, warm water, lemon, and a pinch of cinnamon each morning before food. And then something remarkable happened. Within 10 days, he walked into my office with color in his face I had never seen. He said his hands were warm again. He said he woke up without dragging himself out of bed for the first time in years. 3 weeks later, he climbed the stairs without stopping. 4 weeks later, he looked at me with tears in his eyes and said 9 words that I wish every man could feel again. "Doctor, I feel like I'm living again." And he wasn't alone. Another patient, James, 71, told me he thought intimacy was gone forever. He said he avoided physical closeness because he couldn't handle the disappointment. That is the power of circulation. It doesn't just restore strength, it restores connection. It restores identity. It restores the part of a man that time tries to take, but the heart refuses to surrender. This isn't about miracles or magic. It's about biology. It's about giving the body what it needs to remember what it was built to do. When blood moves, life moves. And when life moves, everything that felt impossible begins to open again. Now that you've seen what is possible when circulation returns, the only real question left is this. What steps can you take starting tomorrow morning to ensure you feel those same changes in your own body? In the next section, you're going to discover the simple additional habits that multiply the power of this protocol and accelerate results even further. Stay with me, because what comes next could transform your next 10 years. 8. 5 keys to improve circulation even more. Most men think that once the damage is done, there's no way back. That once circulation weakens, once energy fades, once confidence slips away, the only direction left is downhill. But that belief is one of the biggest lies aging has ever taught us. The body is not a machine that breaks and can't be repaired. It is a living system designed to rebuild itself when given the right conditions, a testament to resilience. And the truth is, the results from the honey protocol don't just stop at warming your hands or sharpening your focus. They are only the beginning. Because when you pair this routine with a few simple habits that support your blood vessels, the transformation becomes deeper, faster, and more powerful than most men ever imagine. I've watched men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s discover something extraordinary. The body wants to return to life. It wants to recover. It wants to serve you. It just needs your help. And that help doesn't come from suffering, discipline, or complicated programs. It comes from 5 small practices that unlock a level of circulation many men haven't felt in decades. First is hydration. Not just drinking water, but helping the blood stay thin and mobile throughout the day. Thick blood moves like mud, slow and restricted, but hydrated blood flows freely, carrying oxygen and strength through every artery, a river instead of a swamp. Second is movement. Not long workouts, not painful routines, but simple motion. 10 minutes of walking after breakfast, lifting your heels while standing at the kitchen counter, flexing your calves while sitting in a chair. These tiny movements act like pumps, pushing blood upward, helping the vessels learn to open again. I've seen men break down in tears, telling me that these short walks brought them back to life, more than any medication they ever tried, a reconnection with motion itself. Third is sleep, the forgotten medicine. At night, your body rebuilds nitric oxide, repairs vessels, restores balance. When sleep is shallow or cut short, circulation collapses. But when sleep deepens, the body repairs itself with a strength that feels nothing short of miraculous, a nightly renovation. Fourth is avoiding processed sweetness, because sugar crushes nitric oxide and thickens blood like glue. When men let go of the foods that choke their circulation, they discover clarity, lightness, and freedom they thought was gone forever, a liberation from internal stickiness. And finally, choosing raw, dark honey instead of ultra-processed factory honey. The darker the honey, the richer the antioxidants, the stronger the effect. Men often tell me they can feel the difference from the very first week, as if someone turned a dial and suddenly the lights came back on inside their bodies. A visceral understanding of quality. These steps are not punishments, they are acts of respect. Signals to your body that you are ready to fight for your life again, that you are an ally, not an adversary. Because the truth is, you are not done. You are not finished. You are not fading. You are rebuilding. And once men begin to feel results, once they feel blood moving again, once breath becomes easier, once intimacy feels possible, something powerful awakens inside them. Hope. But understanding the science and knowing the steps is not enough. The real transformation begins when you decide to believe that change is still possible for you. In the final section, I want to speak to the part of you that wonders if it's too late, the part that has felt tired and alone for too long. Because what I'm about to say may be the most important message you ever hear. Stay with me. Your comeback is just beginning. 9. Final motivational message. If you are listening to this right now, it means a part of you still believes there is more life left to live. And I want you to know something with absolute certainty. You are right. That feeling is not a phantom. It is your core speaking, your essence refusing the narrative of decline. I have spent more than 3 decades sitting across from men who reached the point where they felt invisible, defeated, and forgotten. Men who thought their bodies were failing them. Men who watched their strength fade, their confidence crumble, and their identity slowly slip through their fingers. They came into my office carrying the quiet grief of a life shrinking around them, believing their best days were behind them. But every time I told them the same truth I am telling you today. Decline is not destiny. Aging is not surrender. And the story is not over unless you decide to stop writing it. I have seen men who thought they were too far gone find a spark they believed was lost forever. I have seen men who struggled to climb a single flight of stairs return to hiking mountains with their sons. I have seen men who had given up on intimacy rediscover connection and tenderness with the woman who has walked beside them for decades. I have seen tears fall from the eyes of men who spent their lives believing they needed to be unbreakable, only to realize that vulnerability and hope are what truly bring them back to life. The common thread among all of them was not luck, wealth, or youth. It was the decision to try again, to believe that the body can heal, to choose movement instead of surrender, to answer a faint signal with action. The honey protocol is not just a drink. It is a declaration. It is a message to your blood vessels, to your heart, to your brain, to your spirit that you are not finished, that you are willing to stand up and fight for the life you still deserve. When blood flows, everything changes. With circulation comes energy, and with energy comes purpose. With purpose comes confidence, and with confidence comes connection. That is the chain reaction that rebuilds a man from the inside out, a cascade of reclamation. And maybe you haven't felt that in a long time. Maybe you've been carrying disappointment in silence. Maybe you've avoided mirrors or moments you once looked forward to. Maybe you've been pretending to be okay because you didn't want to burden the people you love. But hear me now. You are not a burden. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are a man whose body has been waiting for a chance to rise again, a chance it is ready to seize. And that chance starts with something as small as a teaspoon and a choice. So here is my invitation. Tomorrow morning, when the world is quiet and the day has not yet demanded anything from you, give yourself 10 minutes. 1 teaspoon of raw honey, warm water, lemon, a pinch of cinnamon, slow sips. Feel the warmth move through you. Feel the spark return. Pay attention to the first signs of life, because that moment is the beginning of your comeback. And when you feel it, when you notice energy instead of exhaustion, warmth instead of cold, possibility instead of fear, remember this. Your story is far from over. You still have time. You still have strength. You still have purpose. And the best chapters of your life may still be ahead of you. I believe in you. And now it's your turn to believe in yourself. Thank you for listening. Your comeback starts now.